What's up, Reddit? So this happened a few months ago, but I'm finally ready to share the full story of how one dinner completely destroyed my relationship and sent my ex and her toxic friends into a spiral they're still recovering from. Buckle up, because this gets wild. Background on me. I'm Marcus, 29M, living in Portland, Oregon. I work as a software engineer for a mid-sized tech company, make decent money, around $95, and spend my free time restoring vintage guitars and amplifiers. It's expensive as hell, but there's something therapeutic about bringing a 1960s Fender back to life. I met my now ex Jessica at a coffee shop in the Pearl District about 2.5 years ago. She was reading some marketing book. I was debugging code on my laptop, and we ended up talking about how technology was changing everything. Jessica worked as a digital marketing specialist at a boutique agency downtown. Ambitious, driven, always talking about scaling campaigns and ROI metrics. She had this whole girl boss energy that I found attractive at first. Smart conversations about business strategy, seemed genuinely interested when I explained complex coding problems, laughed at my stories about debugging disasters at 3 a.m. For the first year, everything was great. She'd bring coffee to my apartment while I worked on weekend projects. I'd explain how tube amplifiers work while she asked thoughtful questions. We moved in together after about 18 months when her lease was up, and my place in the Alberta Arts District had better workspace for my restoration projects. The red flag parade begins. That's when I met her friend group, 3 women who had apparently perfected the art of psychological warfare disguised as friendly conversation. There was Madison, the ringleader, who worked in pharmaceutical sales and could make any compliment sound like an insult. Then Savannah, who somehow turned every conversation into an opportunity to mention her yoga instructor boyfriend's trust fund. And finally Ashley, who specialized in those little comments that made you question reality. The comments started small. When I spent a weekend restoring a 1965 twin reverb amplifier, we're talking a $3,000 piece of music history here, Madison examined my work and said, "Oh wow, this is so authentic, like something you'd see in one of those reality shows about, what do they call them, hoarders?" Savannah added, "It's so sweet that you have these little hobbies." What? Most guys just play video games. And Ashley delivered the killing blow with that razor-sharp smile. "Well, at least we know Marcus is good with his hands. That probably comes in handy in the bedroom, right, Jessica?" I felt the insult buried in there somewhere, but when I brought it up later, Jessica just laughed it off. "They're just being playful, Marcus. Don't take everything so seriously." Meeting the family. Strike 2, things got worse when Jessica met my family during a barbecue at my parents' house in Gresham. My dad's a retired union carpenter. Mom worked as a school secretary for 30 years. Salt of the earth people who raised me with good values and a strong work ethic. During dinner, my mom was telling stories about how dad built our back deck himself, working evenings and weekends to save money on contractors. I caught Jessica texting under the table and glimpsed her screen. Group chat with her girls at Marcus's family barbecue. Very blue-collar experience. The house smells like sawdust and they're serving potato salad from a Tupperware container. LOL help. When my mom offered to send Jessica home with leftover pulled pork that she'd spent all day smoking, Jessica touched her stomach and said, "Oh, that's so thoughtful, but I'm doing this new clean eating thing." You know how it is, trying to avoid processed foods. My mom's face fell for just a second before she recovered with a smile. The pork had been smoking since 6 a.m. with nothing but salt, pepper, and applewood, about as unprocessed as food gets. On the drive back to Portland, I finally said something. That was pretty rude to my mom about the food. What? I was being polite. I can't help it if I have dietary restrictions. You don't have dietary restrictions. You ate a bacon cheeseburger yesterday. Marcus, don't overanalyze everything. Your family is sweet. They're just different from what I'm used to. There's nothing wrong with that. Different. Right. The breaking point. The real turning point came at my buddy Jake's birthday party in Hawthorne. Jake runs his own web development business, pulls in serious money doing e-commerce sites, and has zero tolerance for fake people. When Madison made some comment about how technical work was so important for keeping society running, Jake looked her dead in the eye and said, "Yeah, must be nice having someone else build the infrastructure that lets you spam people's inboxes for a living." The silence was deafening. Later, when Savannah mentioned how her marketing work required so much creativity, Jake asked, "What's creative about convincing people to buy stuff they don't need with other people's money?" I actually laughed. She'd been asking for it all night, but on the drive home, Jessica tore into me. "Your friend was completely out of line tonight. He was rude and aggressive to my friends for no reason." For no reason? They've been making passive-aggressive comments all night. They were making conversation. You're being way too sensitive about this. And laughing when he attacked Savannah was embarrassing. It's embarrassing when he calls out their bullshit, but it's fine when they spend every social event taking subtle shots at my work and my family? They're not taking shots at anything. That's just how they talk. You're reading way too much into harmless comments. That became the pattern. They'd make their little comments, I'd call it out, and Jessica would tell me I was being too sensitive. But the second Jake or I fired back, suddenly I was being aggressive and embarrassing her. I started making excuses to skip their group events. Suddenly had a lot of coding projects and guitar repairs that needed immediate attention. Jessica noticed, but didn't push it, which should have been another red flag. Jake kept warning me, dude, they're conditioning you, making you think standing up for yourself is the problem while they get to say whatever they want. That's some manipulative bullshit right there. He was right, but I was in too deep to see it clearly. The dinner that changed everything. Then came the celebration dinner that ended everything. Jessica got promoted to senior marketing specialist last month. Good for her, honestly. She'd been grinding for that position, working late nights, networking events, the whole corporate climb. When she told me, I was genuinely proud. Suggested we celebrate. Right? Take her and the whole crew to Lepesian downtown. My treat. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Why would I willingly subject myself to an evening with the three horsewomen of the marketing apocalypse? 2 reasons. First, I actually loved this girl and wanted to celebrate her win. Second, I thought maybe if I was dropping serious money on dinner, they'd dial back the hostility for one night. Spoiler alert, they got worse. Way worse. Setting the stage for disaster. Made reservations for 7 p.m. Requested a quiet corner table. Figured I'd go all out. Appetizers, wine. Whatever they wanted. Jessica looked incredible in this emerald green dress I'd never seen before. For about 10 minutes, I remembered why I fell for her in the first place. Then her friends arrived, like the 4 horsewomen of the financial apocalypse. Madison strutted in wearing what looked like a designer outfit that probably cost more than my mortgage payment. Had this air about her like she was doing the restaurant a favor by existing in it. Savannah was in full influencer mode, taking photos of the breadbasket before she even sat down. Ashley looked like she was dressed for a hostile corporate takeover. Drinks came first. I ordered a local IPA. They went for cocktails with names longer than most sentences and price tags to match. Everything started normal enough, talking about Jessica's new role, the salary bump, the corner office she'd be getting. Jessica was glowing, talking about her new responsibilities, the team she'd be managing. I was genuinely happy for her success, even started thinking maybe tonight would be different. Then the appetizers arrived, and apparently that was the signal for the blood sport to begin. The roasting begins. So Marcus, Madison started, cutting into her $24 duck liver mousse like she was performing surgery. Still playing around with those old guitars? Here we go, I thought, but I kept it cool. Guitar restoration's been good to me. Just finished a 1963 Stratocaster. That's probably worth more than most people's cars. Must be nice having such a simple hobby, though, she continued, not even looking up. Just following YouTube tutorials, right? Plug this wire into that socket? I felt that familiar tightness in my chest, but kept my voice level. Actually, vintage guitar restoration requires extensive knowledge of electronics, woodworking, and music history. These instruments have complex wiring schemes that... Oh, please, Savannah cut in, practically rolling her eyes. It's not like you need a real education or anything. Meanwhile, Jessica's killing it in corporate marketing, working with Fortune 500 clients. Ashley jumped in without missing a beat. What's that thing you do with the computers again? IT support? I'm a software engineer, I said, probably too defensively. I build enterprise applications for financial institutions. Last month, I deployed a trading platform that processes millions of dollars in transactions daily. Hobby, Ashley laughed like I just told her I collected bottle caps. How much money do you waste on those guitar things anyway? Jessica, honey, you could do so much better. Remember Chad from that marketing conference? Venture capital, real ambition. I looked at Jessica, waiting for her to say something. Anything. She was doing that uncomfortable laugh thing, shaking her head like, oh, you crazy kids, but not defending me. Not even slightly. The gloves come off. The roasting continued through the main course. They called me a tech bro, wondered out loud how I could possibly understand Jessica's complex marketing strategies, and Madison actually said, I was lucky. Jessica was willing to date down like I was some charity case she was doing community service with. You know, Savannah said, twirling her $38 pasta, I honestly don't know what you two talk about. Like, what does Jessica discuss with someone who didn't go to business school? Do you just nod and smile when she talks about real work? Ashley chimed in, probably explains things real slow. Use small words. That's when I set down my fork and looked directly at Jessica. All right, I think that's enough. She sighed like I was the one being unreasonable. Marcus, they're just having fun. Don't be so sensitive. Sensitive? Savannah practically cackled. What, are you going to cry because we hurt your feelings? And that's when Jessica looked me dead in the eye and said the words that ended everything. Look, if you can't handle my friends being honest about things, you can just pay the bill and leave. The nuclear option. The table went dead silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then Madison started that high-pitched giggle rich girls do when they think they've won something. She really said it. Madison whispered, but loud enough for half the restaurant to hear. I looked around the table. 4 women staring at me, waiting to see what I'd do. Would I fold? Would I apologize and sit back down like a good little ATM? Would I beg Jessica to take it back? Nah. Not tonight, Satan. Thanks for the suggestion, I said, standing up. I pulled out my wallet, did some quick math. My salmon was $34, plus tip brought it to about $40. I threw down 2 20s because I'm not a complete savage. This covers my meal, I announced to the table. Jessica's eyes went wide like a deer in headlights. Marcus, sit down. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic? Standing up for yourself is dramatic, but spending 2 hours verbally castrating someone is just good fun? I picked up my keys from the table. Enjoy the celebration. The entire restaurant seemed to pause as I walked toward the exit. Other diners had definitely heard the commotion. A few tables were staring openly. The hostess gave me a sympathetic look as I passed her station, and then I walked away. The aftermath begins. The laughter started before I even made it to the valet stand. I heard Savannah clear as day. He'll be crawling back in 10 minutes. Watch. But here's the thing about walking away. Once you start, every step gets easier. By the time I hit the parking garage, I felt like I could breathe again for the first time in months. Got in my car, sat there for a minute, and realized something profound. I wasn't angry. I was relieved. 2.5 years of relationship suddenly crystallized into one moment of clarity. This wasn't going to get better. She wasn't going to suddenly develop a spine and defend me. Her friends weren't going to magically become decent people. My phone started buzzing about 15 minutes into the drive home. First text from Jessica. Very funny. Come back and pay the bill. Then, Marcus, this isn't cute anymore. Then, are you serious right now? Get back here. I kept driving toward Alberta. More texts rolled in, and I could practically feel the panic setting in as reality hit them. See, here's what they didn't think through. They had ordered like they were at someone else's wedding. Multiple appetizers, expensive entrees, cocktails that cost more than most people's car payments, dessert course, wine pairings. The bill was apparently close to $600, and I'd left $40. The digital meltdown Jessica called 23 times on my drive home. I didn't answer a single one. By the time I pulled into my parking space, she'd left 6 voicemails that escalated from annoyed to furious to what sounded like genuine panic. I went inside, grabbed a duffel bag, and packed enough clothes for a week. Toiletries, phone charger, laptop, the essentials. The whole time, my phone kept buzzing like an angry hornet. Then I drove to Jake's place in the Hawthorne district and knocked on his door at midnight. Dude, he said when he saw me with my bag. Finally. Jake had been telling me for 2 years that Jessica's friends were toxic and she was their enabler-in-chief. Crash here as long as you need, he said. My couch is your couch, brother. Also, I'm proud of you for finally growing a pair. For the first time in months, I wasn't walking on eggshells or bracing for the next verbal ambush. I was just free. My phone kept having seizures with incoming texts, but I turned it face down and went to sleep. Best sleep I'd had in years. The group chat goes nuclear. Woke up the next morning to Jake making coffee and my phone having a complete mental breakdown. The text assault had continued all night, like some kind of digital carpet bombing campaign from Jessica. I can't believe you humiliated me like that. My friends think you're pathetic. You left me with a $600 bill. This is so embarrassing. You need to Venmo me right now. Answer your fucking phone. But wait. There's more. Around 3 a.m., her 3 wise women decided to join the party. Madison sent me a dissertation about how I was financially abusive for tricking them into thinking I'd pay. Apparently, walking out after being told to walk out is trickery. She also helpfully informed me that she was documenting everything for when Jessica takes you to court. Court for what? Not paying for their entertainment? Savannah kept it simple but effective. You're a pathetic loser. Jessica deserves better than a man-child who can't take honest feedback about his limitations. But Ashley, she was the real MVP of stupidity. She sent me a Venmo request for $200 with the note, reimbursement for emotional distress and Uber home. Emotional distress. I screenshotted that golden nugget for posterity. You can't make this stuff up. Jake goes to war. Jake read over my shoulder while I scrolled through the carnage. Jesus Christ. It's like they're competing for biggest bitch of the year. I'm blocking all of them. Wait, Jake said, that evil grin spreading across his face. Let me have some fun first. He grabbed my phone. To Madison. Hey girl, Marcus asked me to let you know he's really sorry that your personality is so ugly it makes your face look good by comparison. Have a blessed day. To Savannah, Marcus wanted me to tell you that calling someone a loser while begging them for money is peak irony. Also, your boyfriend Chad? He's been sliding into my cousin's DMs all week. Small world. To Ashley, Marcus said to thank you for the Venmo request because he needed a good laugh. P.S. Charging someone for emotional distress after verbally abusing them all night is some next-level victim complex. Might want to therapy that. Then he blocked all of them and handed my phone back. There. Now they can go fuck themselves in private. The home invasion. But they weren't done. Oh no. These entitled princesses were just getting started. Around noon, there was aggressive knocking on Jake's door. Through the peephole, we could see Jessica with her whole crew, looking like they were about to storm the Bastille. "Marcus, I know you're in there!" Jessica yelled loud enough for the whole complex to hear. "This is ridiculous. You can't just run away from your responsibilities." My responsibilities? My responsibility to be their emotional punching bag and foot the bill for the privilege? Jake opened the door with that sharp smile of his. "Ladies, welcome to my humble abode. Can I interest you in some basic human decency? Oh wait, you're all fresh out." "Where's Marcus?" Madison demanded. "He needs to Venmo Jessica for last night." "He's not here," Jake said smoothly. "But I'll be sure to pass along your message." "Which was what exactly? Please pay us for the privilege of being verbally abused? Did I get that right?" "You don't understand," Ashley jumped in. "He embarrassed us in public. People saw him walk out." "Oh no," Jake said, clutching his chest dramatically. "People witnessed consequences for your actions." "How traumatic for you? Have you considered therapy or basic human decency classes?" Savannah tried to push past him. "We know he's here. We're not leaving until he pays up." That's when Jake's expression shifted. The smile disappeared. "Ladies, you're trespassing on private property and harassing my tenant. You have 10 seconds to get back in your cars before I call the police. And trust me, explaining to the cops why you think someone owes you money for abuse is going to be a fun conversation." They stood there for 25 minutes after he closed the door, alternating between pounding and yelling. Finally, a neighbor called the apartment office, and security made them leave. The social media war. But here's where it gets really pathetic. They started a social media campaign. Jessica posted on Instagram about how I'd abandoned her with a huge bill after she generously included me in her celebration. Madison shared it with a long rant about toxic masculinity and financial abuse. Savannah posted photos from the restaurant with captions about deadbeat boyfriends who can't handle successful women. They tagged me in everything, tagged my family, tagged my company's social media accounts. My mom called around 6 p.m. "Honey, some girl is posting crazy stuff about you online, says you stiffed her with a restaurant bill." "It's a long story, Mom. The short version is, I dated a spoiled brat and it didn't work out." "Well, your sister saw it and she's madder than a wet hen. She's in those comments defending you like it's World War III. God bless my sister." I looked at Instagram and found her in a full-scale war with Jessica's crew. She'd posted screenshots of their old comments about our family, particularly the blue-collar experience text. She'd also found photos from Jessica's Instagram at various expensive restaurants and pointed out that someone who posts about $200 dinners every week probably isn't hurting for money. The comment section was a battlefield. Half the responses were from people I knew defending me, the other half from their friends talking about men who don't know how to treat women. Then Jake showed up in the comments like the cavalry. He'd found Ashley's LinkedIn where she bragged about her luxury lifestyle and high standards. He posted side-by-side screenshots. Ashley's professional headshot next to her Venmo request for emotional damages. Professional marketing executive demanding payment for emotional distress caused by checks notes not getting a free meal. This is peak 2024, folks. The post went viral in Portland social circles. Not good viral, bad viral. People started sharing it as an example of entitled behavior. Local restaurant workers started commenting about serving these women before, describing them as demanding, rude, and terrible tippers. The investigation. While this social media war was raging, I decided to swing by the apartment Tuesday while Jessica was at work to grab more of my stuff. Still had my key, still paid half the rent, so legally I was golden. What I found inside made my blood pressure spike into orbit. First thing I noticed was the smell. Stale wine and takeout containers everywhere, plus what looked like the aftermath of a rage-induced cleaning spree. I found 3 noise complaint notices taped to the door. Apparently, their Monday night war council meeting got loud enough that multiple neighbors complained. But then I started looking around more carefully, and my stomach dropped. My custom gaming PC was missing from the desk. Found it hidden in the bedroom closet, probably thinking I wouldn't notice or wouldn't have the balls to confront her about it. But that was just the appetizer. She'd gone through my workshop like a burglar. For context, I've been building my guitar restoration tools and equipment for 5 years. This isn't Guitar Center stuff. We're talking professional-grade tools that pay my bills. My Fluke digital multimeter, $400. My professional soldering station, $300. My vintage tube tester that I'd hunted for months to find, $600. Half of it was gone. I started checking every drawer, every closet, every possible hiding spot. Found my oscilloscope wrapped in towels under the bathroom sink. My wire strippers were hidden behind winter coats like she was stockpiling my stuff for some kind of garage sale revenge fantasy. I pulled up Facebook Marketplace on my phone and found the listings posted by Jessica. My tube tester listed for $200, worth $600. My soldering station for $150, worth $300. My professional guitar setup tools for $100, worth $400. All priced to move fast. I screenshotted everything, making sure to capture the timestamps showing they were posted yesterday morning. Then I kept searching. That's when I found the nuclear bomb. She'd been in my garage workshop where I work on the guitars. The 1961 Les Paul I'd been restoring for 6 months was listed on Craigslist. Vintage guitar project. Needs work. $2,000 OBO. Must sell ASAP. Moving out of state. $2,000 for a guitar that's worth at least $15,000 in its current state. Probably $25,000 when I finish the restoration. A guitar that isn't hers to sell. A guitar that represents months of research, hunting down original parts, careful restoration work. The listing had 12 inquiries already. One guy had offered asking price and wanted to pick it up that weekend. Calling in the law, I called the police non-emergency line immediately. So she's selling your property without permission? The dispatcher asked. Correct, we cohabitate, but these are my personal belongings that I owned before the relationship. I have receipts and documentation proving ownership. That's theft, sir. I can have an officer meet you at the residence to file a report. While I waited for the cop, I called Jake. Dude, I need your truck. Emergency. What's she done now? She's trying to sell my fucking Les Paul. Are you serious? Jesus Christ, what a psycho. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Jake showed up with his truck just as the police officer arrived. The cop was cool about it, explained that while property disputes between cohabitants get complicated, selling someone else's stuff without permission is definitely theft, especially when I had clear documentation of ownership. Document everything, he advised. Keep screenshots of those listings. This is enough for charges if you decide to press them. We loaded up the Les Paul along with every tool that hadn't been sold yet. Got everything valuable secured at Jake's place before Jessica came home. My phone rang while the cop was still taking notes. Mr. Rodriguez, the landlord. Marcus, I need to talk to you about the lease. Jessica called saying you abandoned the apartment and wants you removed from the lease. Also, we've had 3 noise complaints this week. I stepped outside to call him back. He'd been my landlord for 2 years. Good guy. Never had problems before this week. She made it sound like you've been gone for weeks, he said. I've been gone 4 days because of a domestic situation. I'm at the apartment right now with a police officer filing a theft report. Oh, she said you moved out permanently and refused to pay rent. I haven't abandoned anything. In fact, if she wants off the lease, I'm happy to take it over solo. I can cover the full rent myself. Look, between you and me, I'd rather keep you as a tenant. You've never been late, never had complaints until this week. If you want to take over the lease alone, I'm open to that conversation. What about the noise complaints? That's my concern, Marcus. One more incident and I'll have grounds for eviction. The building has quiet hours, and apparently Monday night was pretty disruptive. Taking inventory. After the cop left and we finished moving my stuff, I sat in my car and took inventory. Tools stolen and listed for sale. Guitar almost sold without my knowledge. Noise complaints threatening my housing. Social media harassment campaign targeting my family and employer. Not once had Jessica actually apologized for what her friends said. It was all about the money and her bruised ego. Time to stop playing defense and go on offense. Round 1. The theft charges. First, I filed the theft report. The police officer had been clear. What Jessica did constituted theft, regardless of our relationship status. Armed with the case number, I contacted her directly for the first time since the restaurant. You have 24 hours to return all my property or I'm pressing charges. This includes tools currently listed on Facebook Marketplace under your name. Her response was immediate. Those are gifts. We lived together for 2 years. What's yours is mine. Wrong answer, sweetheart. I called the detective handling my case. She's claiming the stolen property was gifts. I have receipts showing I purchased everything before we started dating. Text her back asking for documentation of these alleged gifts. When she can't provide any, we'll have her for theft and lying to police. I texted, please provide receipts or documentation showing these were gifts. Detective Rodriguez needs this for his report. Radio silence. Round 2. Social media warfare. Meanwhile, Jake was cooking up something beautiful on the social media front. See, Jessica's Instagram post about me had backfired spectacularly. The comment section was now 80% people calling her out for posting someone's business online, especially after they found out about the tool theft. But Jake found the golden egg. Savannah's Instagram story from the night before, showing her at another expensive restaurant, complaining about cheap men who can't afford to treat women properly. Look at this, Jake showed me his phone. Posted 8 hours after begging you for money. The fucking audacity. He screenshotted it and posted it as a reply to Jessica's Instagram drama. Interesting how someone who can't afford a $600 dinner can afford a $180 meal the next night. Almost like this isn't about money at all. The post got shared 312 times in Portland's social media groups. Local restaurant workers started commenting about how they'd served these women before. Demanding, rude, terrible tippers. One server from Le Pigeon actually commented, I was working that night. They were incredibly rude to staff and left zero tip on a $600 bill. The guy who walked out was the only polite one at the table. Round 3. The inside man. But the real knockout punch came from an unexpected source. Tyler, Ashley's boyfriend, slid into my DMs. Dude, I saw what happened. Ashley showed me the text they've been sending you. This is fucked up. Want to know something interesting about Ashley's financial situation? Turns out Ashley had been lying to everyone about her income. She'd been fired from her marketing job 5 weeks ago for repeatedly missing deadlines while networking, aka day drinking with the girls. She'd been living off credit cards and Tyler's paychecks while pretending to still have her salary. The Venmo request for emotional damages? She was literally broke and hoping I'd actually send money. I'm done with her entitled ass, Tyler told me. Watching her demand money from you after everything they said, that was my wake-up call. He sent me screenshots of their text conversation, where Ashley called me a loser who doesn't know his place and said Jessica was slumming it with the help. The domino effect. Tyler moved out of their shared apartment that weekend. Without his income, Ashley couldn't afford her lifestyle or her half of the rent. Within days, she was posting on social media asking for temporary financial assistance during a career transition. You really can't write this level of irony. But I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. See, Jessica's employer had a very strict social media policy, something about employees not posting content that could reflect negatively on the company's reputation. Her Instagram rant about our relationship, which mentioned her job title and company name in her bio, and the harassment campaign linked to her professional profile. That was a problem. I didn't report her. Didn't need to. Someone who worked with her saw the Instagram drama and recognized her name. Turns out publicly airing relationship drama while identifying yourself as a company employee violates several HR policies. She got called into a meeting Thursday morning. The legal hammer falls. But the real masterpiece was what happened to Madison. Remember how she was documenting everything for when Jessica sued me? Well, she decided to escalate by creating a fake Google review for my consulting business, claiming I was unprofessional and unreliable. One problem, business defamation is illegal in Oregon. Another problem, she was dumb enough to use her real name and linked Facebook profile. My business lawyer sent her a cease and desist letter Friday afternoon. The review disappeared within hours, but not before Jake screenshotted it for evidence. Saturday morning, I went full scorched earth. Detective Rodriguez called Tuesday morning. She returned most of the tools to the police station yesterday. Claims they were misunderstandings about shared property. Still want to press charges? Absolutely. She also forged my signature on the Craigslist ad for my guitar. That's fraud. We'll add that to the report. The arraignment was scheduled for the following Friday. Jessica showed up with her high-priced lawyer, looking like she wanted to disappear into the courthouse floor. Her attorney tried the domestic dispute angle, claiming this was all relationship drama that got out of hand. The prosecutor wasn't buying it. Jessica's lawyer called me Thursday, some fancy downtown firm. Dude wanted to work out a deal to avoid criminal charges, offered compensation for inconvenience, and to cover my legal fees if I dropped everything. I told him my counteroffer. She pleads guilty to theft, pays full restitution, and stays the hell away from me. No deal on dropping charges. He hung up on me. 5 minutes later, I got a Venmo payment for $2,247, apparently what she'd calculated as damages for the tools plus her listing fees. Too little, too late, sweetheart. The courtroom massacre. The preliminary hearing was brutal. Jessica showed up in a borrowed business suit to cheat, looking like she was about to vomit. When the judge asked me for documentation proving ownership, I had receipts going back 5 years, plus photo evidence from my insurance policies. When he asked Jessica for any documentation showing these were gifts or shared property, her lawyer whispered frantically in her ear before admitting they had nothing. Boom. Guilty plea to misdemeanor theft, 1 year probation, $3,500 fine, full restitution. The conviction went on her permanent record. Turns out actions have consequences. Wild concept. The professional collapse. But that was just the beginning. Her company's background check policy required employees to disclose criminal convictions within 30 days. When HR found out about the theft charge, they started asking questions about her judgment and professionalism. The promotion was officially rescinded. She got moved to a different department, handling accounts nobody wanted. Her salary was cut by $15,000. Mr. Rodriguez served her with eviction papers the same week. The noise complaints, combined with the police visits for the theft investigation, violated multiple lease terms. She had 30 days to vacate. Madison's fake Google review came back to bite her harder than she expected. My business lawyer filed a defamation lawsuit seeking $20,000 in damages for harm to my professional reputation. Her insurance company settled for $12,000 rather than go to trial, but dropped her coverage afterward. Good luck finding new insurance with a defamation settlement on your record. She also got fired 3 weeks later. Someone in HR saw her LinkedIn where she'd been posting about dealing with difficult people. and handling unprofessional contractors. They put two and two together and realized she was the subject of a defamation lawsuit while representing the company online, violated their social media policy and professional conduct standards. The financial apocalypse. Savannah's downfall was pure mathematics. Her boyfriend Chad pulled her credit report during their lease renewal application and discovered she had $52,000 in credit card debt. She'd been living on borrowed money for 3 years, financing her influencer lifestyle with plastic. When he confronted her about the debt, she tried to convince him they were investments in their future together, and that he should help pay them off since they were practically married anyway. He moved out that weekend. Without Chad's income, she couldn't make minimum payments on the cards, had to sell her car, move back in with roommates, and take a second job bartending nights. The influencer lifestyle evaporated overnight. Her Instagram went from luxury restaurant posts to finding joy in simple moments, aka being broke. But Ashley won the championship belt for spectacular collapse. Tyler didn't just move out. He'd been documenting her financial abuse for months. The Venmo requests, the demands for expensive gifts, the way she'd run up restaurant bills and expect him to cover them. He sent all of it to a friend who worked in family law. The lawyer filed a restraining order on Tyler's behalf, citing emotional and financial manipulation. With the restraining order on her record, Ashley couldn't pass the background check for her new job at a marketing firm. She'd already been unemployed for 8 weeks and burned through her savings trying to maintain appearances. Her parents cut her off when they found out about the legal troubles. Apparently, getting served with court papers while living in their basement wasn't the temporary setback they'd been promised. Last I heard, she was working at a call center in Beaverton and living in a studio apartment that smells like cigarettes and disappointment. The friend group implosion. The friend group imploded entirely. When Jessica lost her income and apartment, she couldn't afford to be the meal ticket anymore. Madison was too broke from legal fees to pick up the slack. Savannah was working 2 jobs just to make rent. Ashley was persona non grata with a restraining order. They started blaming each other for everything. Ashley accused Jessica of destroying our lives by dating down. Madison claimed she was just being honest and everyone else was too sensitive. Savannah said they were all toxic influences who'd corrupted her judgment. The group chats went silent. The dinner invitations stopped. 3 years of fake friendship dissolved the moment their financial situations couldn't support their lifestyle anymore. Turns out their bond was as shallow as their personalities. I found this out through the most unexpected source. Tyler reached out a month later to thank me. Apparently, watching Ashley's true character emerge during our drama was the wake-up call he needed to escape what he now realized was an abusive relationship. Dude, she was bleeding me dry, he told me over beers. The Venmo request to you for emotional damages? That's when it clicked. She actually thought someone owed her money for experiencing consequences of her own actions. The sweet taste of freedom. Meanwhile, I moved into my new place in the Hawthorne district, a killer loft with garage space for my workshop. Finished the Les Paul restoration, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Sold it to a collector for $28,000, which funded my next 2 projects, a 1959 Telecaster and a 1965 Jazzmaster. Jake still comes over on Sundays with Thai takeout, and we work on guitars without anyone calling it a waste of money or asking when I'm going to grow up and get real hobbies. Tyler stops by sometimes too. We compare notes on our ex's latest legal troubles and marvel at how much better life gets when you stop subsidizing other people's entitlement. The epilogue. 6 months later, I'm thriving. My consulting business is booming. Turns out not having someone constantly undermining your confidence does wonders for your professional performance. I've got 3 vintage guitars in various stages of restoration, a workshop that's actually organized, and peace of mind that's priceless. Jessica? Last I heard through the Portland social media grapevine, she's working at a much smaller marketing firm for significantly less money. Living with 2 roommates in a house in outer southeast Portland. Her social media presence has shifted from girl boss content to inspirational quotes about learning from mistakes and growing through adversity. Madison moved back to her hometown in Idaho after the legal fees bankrupted her. Turns out pharmaceutical sales isn't as lucrative as she pretended, especially when you're paying lawyers and settlement fees. Savannah is still bartending and living with roommates. Her Instagram bio now says, "Finding authentic happiness," which is rich girl speak for broke, but trying to make it sound intentional. Ashley disappeared entirely from social media. Tyler heard through mutual friends that she moved to Seattle and is working in retail while trying to rebuild her life. The restraining order expired, but she's apparently learned her lesson about financial manipulation. The real lesson. Here's what I learned from this whole experience. Sometimes the trash takes itself out, but you have to be willing to stop feeding it first. For 2.5 years, I enabled their behavior by absorbing the abuse and paying for the privilege. I told myself I was being the bigger person, taking the high road, not letting them get to me. But really, I was just teaching them that their behavior was acceptable as long as I kept subsidizing it. The moment I stopped playing along, the moment I stood up, paid for my own meal, and walked away, their entire ecosystem collapsed. They were vampires who needed a host, and when I removed myself from the equation, they turned on each other. Jake put it best. You weren't in a relationship with Jessica. You were in a hostage situation with 4 people who'd convinced you that abuse was love. The update. Since this story blew up on Reddit, I've gotten hundreds of messages from people sharing similar experiences. Turns out toxic friend groups and enabler partners are way more common than I thought. To everyone asking for updates, yes, I'm still single and loving it. Yes, the guitar business is still going strong. No, I haven't heard from Jessica or her crew in months. Yes, Tyler and I are still friends. No, I don't regret walking out for even a second. To anyone dealing with something similar, you don't owe anyone your dignity. You don't owe anyone your money. You don't owe anyone the privilege of mistreating you. Sometimes the best thing you can do is stand up, pay for your own meal, and walk away. The trash will take itself out after that. Final thoughts. Life is good now. Really good. I wake up in my own space, work on projects that bring me joy, hang out with people who actually respect me, and go to bed without walking on eggshells. My workshop is full of beautiful instruments at various stages of restoration. My bank account is healthier without someone constantly expecting me to fund group dinners and activities. My mental health is better without constant gaslighting disguised as friendly teasing. Most importantly, I learned that loving someone doesn't mean accepting abuse from them or their friends. Real love involves respect, support, and having your partner's back when others attack you. Jessica failed that test spectacularly, and I'm grateful she showed me who she really was before I wasted any more time. To Jessica, Madison, Savannah, and Ashley, if you're reading this, thanks for the life lesson. You taught me exactly what I don't want in my life, and for that, I'm genuinely grateful. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a 1963 Stratocaster that needs new pickups, and unlike my ex-relationship, this restoration project actually brings me joy. Peace out, Reddit. Sometimes the best revenge is living well and letting karma handle the rest. TLDR, girlfriend's toxic friends spent years verbally abusing me at dinners I paid for. At her promotion celebration, when they ramped up the abuse, she told me to pay and leave if I didn't like it. So I paid for my meal only and left them with a $600 bill. This triggered a cascade of events that destroyed their friend group, got my ex criminally charged for theft, resulted in multiple lawsuits, and led to all of them losing jobs, relationships, and financial stability. Meanwhile, I'm thriving in my new life without toxic people draining my energy and wallet.